Hello, I'm Dr. Sri Banerjee, core faculty for the College of Health Sciences and Public Policy at Walden University. And in this segment, I'm going to be going over an addiction model known as the interaction of person, affect, cognitive, execution, the IPACE model, in the context of various addictive behaviors. So let's go ahead and get started here. This is actually important because this is specific to internet use disorders rather than more classic description of this, where addiction was more of a personal thing rather than virtual. So I'm going to describe what I mean by internet use disorders. So the internet use disorder is part of addictive behaviors and are linked to cue reactivity and craving. And then addictive behaviors are associated with diminished inhibitory control. That means that when addiction first starts, it doesn't start as habit formation. It actually starts by decrease in inhibition. So habitual behaviors are developed in the process of addictive behaviors. And so it's kind of like a vicious cycle, because habitual behaviors lead to addictive behaviors and vice versa. An imbalance between the frontostriatal circuits contributes to addictive behaviors. And what is interesting is a lot of addictive behaviors are found to be genetic as well. So this is a situation where genetics and environment play a role. So looking at some of the types of addictive behaviors, there's gambling, there's gaming, there's buying, shopping, and compulsive sexual behavior disorders. So with the proliferation of some of the sexual behavior disorders, and with a lot of electronic types of entertainment, these types of behaviors can lead to addictive behaviors. And there are cognitive responses to specific stimuli. And so this affects decision making and inhibitory control. So imbalance between structures of frontostriatal circuits, the ventral striatum, amygdala, and dorsolateral prefrontal areas. So going through this a bit more, looking at the some of the areas, for instance, problematic pornography use, that's a compulsive sexual behavior disorder. The gambling disorder, gaming disorder, all of these you can use the IPACE model in order to better understand them. And so as ICD-11 is being released, some of the addictive behaviors such as substance use disorder is included. And it also focuses on disorders such as gambling disorder and internet gaming disorder. So as we move through this, let's take a look at how the IPACE model is applied. So figure 1 looks at how medium environmental context such as delivery of reward options, intermittent reinforcement, availability, accessibility, and affordability. So this is the environment. Casino has become available within your phones, your tablets, everywhere. So this has made gambling so much more accessible. Person reacts with specific behavior, rewarding experiences, feelings of pleasure, and reduced negative mood, development of cue reactivity, development of implicit cognitions, changes in expectancies. And the consequences in neural adaptations, habits and compulsions, continuing behavior, despite experiencing negative consequences. So that is model 1. Now, looking at some of the IPACE application, model 2 goes into the early stages and later stages. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to download this and as a full-size image. And then you'll be able to see what the different models are. So taking a look at this here, you can see that in the early stages there is affective and cognitive responses to triggers, decision to behave in a specific way, and that leads to gratification and compensation. So the reward expectancy specific coping style changes, and this is a cycle, affective and cognitive responses to triggers. Now what is interesting is that the perception of external and internal triggers lead to affective and cognitive responses to triggers. So this is not actual necessarily triggers, it's the perception, which is important to understand. And then taking a look at some of these persons' core characteristics. Genetic, of course, is early childhood experience. Of course, that is as well. Psychopathology, temperamental features, general coping style. These are all in general predisposing factors. Now, behavioral specific predisposing variables, they may be specific motives, specific values, specific needs. So control over the behavior is challenging, positive, but also same negative consequences in daily life. And as you go over to the edge, stabilization and intensification increases. So let's zoom out here and then scroll down. And then zoom in and see how this is different. So in the center of it all is cue reactivity and craving. So specific habitual behaviors, gratification, compensation, and then affective and cognitive bias, specific coping style. And again, perception of external and internal triggers. Now, this is not the same thing as the figure above, because this goes into the later stages. This might be the same person's core characteristics, however, these may change. And so there's the general inhibitory portion, and then stimuli specific reductions in inhibitory control. So comparing that to here, there's only general inhibitory control. However, now there's cue reactivity and craving, which was not there at the top. Before it was affective and cognitive responses to triggers. However, the craving now is present later. And then specific habitual behaviors are actually influenced by stimuli-specific reductions in inhibitory control. So then there is the compensation, gratification, and affective and cognitive by specific coping style. Stabilization and intensification is going on in the chronic later stage as well. So I want to end here. There's a lot that has been covered here with the advent of internet and a lot more accessibility. There's a lot of areas that is being unmasked and understood in a way that technology is being applied. Thank you for listening.